So it's very much embedded in our psyche.
Could you address why cities like Detroit and communities that have large minority populations end up with incinerators and don't seem to be able to get rid of them? What is this whole pattern about?
One of the, I mean, if you put together all these different pieces about the financials, the emissions, you know, why do companies locate these facilities where they do? And particularly the facility in the city of Detroit. If you look at the demographics of the location of this facility, immediately downwind if you just look at the 2000 census, the community in that area is 90 to 95% African American. It is even lower income than the average of the city of Detroit. The average of the city of Detroit is about, average household income is about $25,000 per year. In the neighborhood surrounding the facility, it's about $15,000 per year. Education levels, you know, is another indicator. It's all taken together as you're talking about a fundamental environmental injustice. And that it's a community that has the least resources to say no to this kind of a facility. So in talking about environmental justice, you know, if you think in terms of Michigan, you know, they're not going to build an incinerator in Bloomfield Hills because every person who lives in the neighborhood is probably, if they're not an attorney themselves, they're living next to an attorney, and there's going to be attorneys crawling out from all the woodwork to fight it. And so it ends up getting located, and this has happened time and time again across the United States. In 1987, there was a report issued on the connection between the location of waste facilities and a person's, the community's level of income and their race. And study after academic study has shown time and time again that it is more related to a person's race than it is to their income, but it is both. So these facilities, time and time again, are located in low-income communities of color. And it's fundamentally an environmental justice question that needs to be addressed. We finally have in Michigan an opportunity to try and do that. In November of 2007, Governor Granholm signed an environmental justice executive directive that is at least starts to approach some of the procedural issues around how this happens, that we need to address the public participation piece of this, of how these facilities get located, of how the collective or cumulative impact of all these different facilities, particularly in a place like the city of Detroit, has an impact on communities. One of the, and I have to say this as a criticism of the environmental community, is that the traditional environmental organizations have actually contributed to making this worse, frankly, because they focus on assisting wealthy white suburbs because they can be donors to their organizations. And so they get the resources to be able to fight these facilities, which means it leaves low-income communities of color even more vulnerable by not having the resources available to them to fight these kinds of facilities. And so many of the traditional environmental organizations have actually contributed to making this happen. And even though at least in most of the United States, environmental concerns have improved generally, what it has meant is that there has been more and more concentration of the worst polluting facilities in low-income communities of color. I mean, and it's more, as I said before, it's more an issue of race than it is of income. And so and this is one of my criticisms, for example, of the cap and trade programs that they proposed for various things, is because one facility that may be located near a wealthy white neighborhood will invest in lowering its emissions, but then will trade with another facility that's located in a community of color, so that emissions are higher there. And so overall the net emissions may go down, but you actually have end up with a higher concentration in a community of color. And that ends up perpetuating environmental injustice.
This is a